Welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tonight's 14-game slate here, and finally, we have some pitching options, but we're talking about hitters, and we got ourselves a core slate. But overall, I mean, there's definitely some other games that you can take a look at.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on here, especially, well, number one with 14 games, number two with the cores, and then number three, some weird salaries going on. So, and we also had that Royals game that got rained out yesterday. So there's quite a few weird things going on, but I think we can get a pretty good read on this.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at catcher here, I mean, these cores bats are priced up pretty heavily. Buster Posey, 5,300. I still think on a 14-game slate, I'm going to be paying down at catcher somewhat. And I still kind of like Wellington Castillo at 4,100, except DK didn't make it easy on us. I mean, that pivot to Chase Field isn't as huge of a drop-off as I kind of wanted it to be, but I still think you can kind of save some cash by going to that Padres-Diamondbacks game.
5,300, man. You really have to talk yourself into this Dodgers lineup tonight. I totally understand the 2 through 5 sort of stack there because it's
Giants.
Yeah, but what did I say?
Dodgers.
Oh, not the Dodgers. Sorry, but it's tough. I don't want to pay 5,300 for Buster Posey, even if he's like stole Michael Jordan's skills and he's playing in Space Jam or something like that. But there's nothing. I don't know. I don't want to pay that much for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way I'm kind of fitting some of those Giants bets in is if I'm just going with the extremely expensive Giants stack. I mean, I can't see. I mean, there's a lot of other guys in one-offs for better value points per dollar wise that I like. So Wellington Castillo won for 1,200 cheaper, and we mentioned the Royals game being postponed and pushing the pitchers to today, and there are still some thunderstorms in the area. But if things kind of clear out, and you kind of hope that they kind of force this one in a little bit more. But Salvador Perez at 3,200 with the way he's been hitting the ball against Gonzalez is something I like a lot.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a good call. He was basically just a more expensive version of himself yesterday, so I'll take that at a reduced price. Luke Roy as well, I think, is a decent option against Lamb.
Yep, I agree. I mean, I think you're kind of sitting in that minus 4K range just because of tonight's slate. 5,300 is just a steep price tag, and I just think with Perez sitting there at 3,200, I mean, as long as that game plays, he's just going to be that lock for me. And I think if you're looking, Luke Roy's kind of a great GPP swerve because one, he's struggling, but also he's in a great hitter's environment in Miller Park and going up against a lefty there.
Yeah, and then you kind of go down the list and you look at Tyler Flowers. He's got a tough matchup. You look at Christian Vasquez. He's been struggling. So it's like the punts that are normally there are kind of not quite there. I think you're better off just staying in that 3K range. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be someone, just like every day, it's like 2K. It's getting a spot start that you could probably throw in there, but I'm looking in the 3K range.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys. I mean, I keep coming back to Perez at 32. It just makes it kind of hard to punt.
Right, exactly.
First base here, and it's kind of loaded tonight, and it's kind of loaded in different ranges, which is nice. You look at Goldschmidt and Cabrera and Ortiz all up over 5K. I mean, obviously Ortiz has just been crushing the ball. I mean, coming off another 2-hit night last night, he was the only real Red Sox player to do anything against Gray. Cabrera hitting the ball well, but park factor wise, I like Ortiz a little bit more. But overall, I mean, all three options are very much in play tonight.
Yeah, I like Goldschmidt. I think I'm going to pound the table for him a little bit here. But yeah, I don't know. It's all three are good, and I think it depends a little bit on roster construction. You could see a scenario where you're building a lineup and the difference is 500. So the difference between Goldschmidt, it's almost a different tier, Goldschmidt to Ortiz. So I'm kind of okay with that. But yeah, Goldschmidt's my number one. I think he's going to turn it around here soon.
Yeah, I mean, good matchup against Friedrich.
Yeah.
I mean, Friedrich, obviously the next course pitcher, but hasn't shown anything great in Petco there. So, and given it's in Chase Field, I think with that over under, they're predicting a ton of runs, and I think all those right-handed bats for Arizona are in a solid spot.
Mm-hmm.
A couple other guys. I mean, if you still want some Tigers exposure, I mean, Victor Martinez at 4100s, a guy who you can get some discount for. I mean, hitting cleanup there. I like him quite a bit, and I think one he's kind of a little more stabler option than Encarnacion, who's been very up and down, but Encarnacion still carries that big time upside too.
Yeah, I like that call. I think Jose Abreu is an interesting play again today. if that game goes, Votto, I think that range is really solid. Like you mentioned, it's pretty much loaded all around today.
Yeah, and I mean these Royals bats were a lot more expensive last night, and with the same matchup now they're cheaper. I mean Hosmer dropped $1,000, so
Mm-hmm.
3,500
Yeah,
for Hosmer against Gonzalez is pretty
right.
solid, and I'm just praying that game gets in. I mean it's a chance of thunderstorms now, so you hope things improve, but Gonzalez 347 WOBA to lefties since 2014 with a big 151 home runs per nine. So those numbers, it just seems like the Royals are in another good spot.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman 3,300, where we're avoiding him with Conley on the hill. I think that's a good matchup for Conley. So that's unfortunate. We got our little Braves exposure yesterday. It kind of worked out for what the Braves are, and moving on.
Yeah. Looking at
Um,
second base, and you and I mean, Gene Segura is expensive, but definitely a guy
yeah,
who can pay off that price tag.
yeah, definitely going to be making some Diamondbacks sort of lineups tonight with Secura and Goldschmidt. I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at all these other guys. I mean, Cano, Altuve, even Panic. I mean, Kipnis. I just think Segura kind of stands out in that crowd, just as far as facing a weaker lefty at home. I mean, a little bit more upside. I think even more so than Panic, even though he's in cores.
Yeah, I go back and forth on Panic and whether I think that's a viable play or not. I get it's a little more reasonable than Posey, I think, but again, it's still so expensive, and the guys you can get around them. I look at a Jason Kipnis against Wright. I think that's a pretty decent matchup. So I don't know. I I think I'm gonna stick to just Giant stacks with these Giants tonight.
Yeah, I think as far as one-offs go, they're not certainly too
No, not
appealing.
appealing. Yeah.
I mean, if you do want some cores exposure, DJ LeMahieu, though, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
3,900, I mean, going up against Matt Cain isn't a bad matchup at all, not a bad price tag. So I think you can get some cores exposure with some cheap guys, and DJ LeMahieu kind of starts the ball rolling here because there's a guy in the outfield that we like too at the price.
I'll tell you what, I might rescind my Matt Cain targeting if he does well tonight. He's strung together a nice little stretch here for Matty Cain, so I might be hedging off that a little bit if he has a good one tonight or holds it under 3 runs, or around 3 runs. I might be okay with Matty Cain after that.
Looking cheaper here, Brandon Phillips, 3,500 is a guy I'm liking. Cincinnati, Milwaukee, I like that over under there. I
Mhm.
like that ballpark. Two weaker pitchers, so I think that's certainly in play. I know you like Derek Dietrich as well, going up against Williams Perez.
Yeah, I'd say it's a toss up between Phillips and Dietrich, but they're both in a nice value range, so I think that a nice mix between them is a good idea.
Yep, I definitely agree. Dietrich is kind of that quality guy. I mean, Williams Perez, 359, a little bit of lefties, 1.30 home runs per nine since 2014. So you look at those Marlins left-handed bats, guys like Bohr, Dietrich, certainly in play.
Hmm. And gosh, after last night, I want to play Descalso, but who knows with him? So, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Brett Lowry? I guess it depends on where he is in the lineup, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think the White Sox are kind of an interesting bunch just because, one, they're seeing Danny Duffy for a second time in a row.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind of something to consider as well. Definitely, I think that he probably only fit in for a White Sox stack for me. And I think it's obviously kind of a big GPP move.
Right. And then Gordon Beckham, really the only righty in the lineup against Conley. So he might be an okay punt, but again, don't stack Braves.
Yeah, I mean, he's been hitting the ball well this season. I like the way he's played, but
Yeah.
2,600 is not a bad price for him.
Right.
Looking at third base here, and it's a lot of high price names again, and I certainly don't mind Arenado up top. I think if I am paying up over 5K for anyone in this game, it's going to be for Arenado.
Yeah, definitely with you on that. That's basically the guy I'm targeting in that game. Even as a standalone, I think it's kind of like he's such a good option at home against a pitcher who's been inconsistent this year. It's pretty much a perfect combination for him. And obviously he's coming off a rough night last night, but hey, if he hit 3 home runs last night, it would have kind of stolen the show for the 3 home runs he's going to hit tonight.
Looking cheaper, I mean, are you kind of on Machado as maybe a swerve or anyone up top? I mean, I kind of like Matt Duffy, but once again, I think he fits in as kind of a giant stack type guy anyway.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay with that, but at the same time, I don't mind that mid range again. Frazier was 5K yesterday, and he's only 4,200 now. So I still like his upside quite a bit if they can get that game in. Please get that game in. Please get that game in.
Yeah, and I mean, Donaldson going up against Joe Kelly with reverse splits.
Yeah.
4,300. I know Donaldson struggled of late, but I think at that price tag, you definitely take a shot just because Kelly's been so up and down. I mean, since 2014, 344 will be allowed, 1.19 home runs per 9. So Donaldson at 4,300 kind of seems like a solid GPP option, especially for his upside and that price tag.
And on a 14 gamer with the Red Sox coming off sort of a weird game yesterday where they let some people down, I think this might be an interesting swerve back onto them. So you look at Travis Shaw, 3,500. I think that's a nice value. I think you could get some decent values, maybe a Jackie Bradley or something like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And another guy, I think I'm going to touch on him more in the outfield, but Brandon Drury at 3,900 is a guy we'll be talking about.
Right.
But down low, I think this is a kind of a range where it gets a little bit tricky, but I like Martin Prado at 3,400. I like this Marlins offense against Perez. They offer up some decent value.
Yeah, I like that call. It's a good position for that. And I mean, when you look at the situations around him, I think he's a good value.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you also Gordon Beckham's here, 2,600 if you were paying up at second base or something like that.
Yeah.
So. Looking at shortstop, and this is one, I mean, Brandon Crawford, Trevor Story, both 5,400. It's a steep price tag at shortstop. I know there's a lot of value elsewhere, but if Story's hitting 7th again, I know he's coming off a homer last night against Buchholz. I know Crawford's got some upside as well, but once again, I still think this is just a position where they're only going to fit into a core stack.
Yeah, I don't envision myself paying up that much unless I can find some value pitchers, but I think I kind of like this slate, other than Conley as a real value. So I actually like Lindor just as much as those guys in his matchup. So I think the 500 savings is actually a pretty decent move down.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Lindor's kind of the guy. I like this Cleveland offense is kind of like come off of that Coors game. I mean, they're priced up there, which you don't like. You kind of were hoping for a little bit of difference, but still, I mean, they're in a great spot against Mike right there.
Right.
Looking cheaper, though, I mean, Correa 4,200. I see someone you're kind of off the wagon on for tonight's slate.
Shit. Well, after Shoemaker became Roger Clemens last week, I don't really know what to expect. I mean, you kind of, based on his splits, you kind of expect him to go back to his normal ways. If that's the case, it's still not a perfect matchup for these Astros righties. They have a decent strikeout rate. So I don't know about Correa, man. I'm probably not touching him.
Yeah, and you look at that ballpark. I mean, if this game was in Houston, I'd be kind of a little bit more inclined to take some of these guys in GPPs just because Schumacher is home run prone. But LA, it's a tough place to hit, and I mean, not a lot goes out as far as power wise.
Even last night, even with the Springer 2 homers, Altuve didn't do anything, and neither did Correa. They weren't strong last night, even against a good matchup. So yeah, I think it's kind of an avoid for now.
Yeah, and I mean there are some better options down low. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mind Elvis Andrus against John Neese there. 3,800 is not a bad price tag. He's been hitting the ball well of late. And then obviously Alcides Escobar. So I think you got some in Villar. So you got some pivots in that Cincinnati Milwaukee game that you can kind of go to.
Hmm.
Um,
And
yeah,
hey, and my boy Nick Ahmed, 3,400 now. They're moving his price up. Price of Poke is going up, baby. He's over 200 on the season.
they did that solely just for you.
Uh, nah, obviously I'm kidding, but um, you wish Brad Miller wasn't facing Tanaka, otherwise he'd be in play, but he's not. So that's kind of what the bottom is looking like here. Nick
Yeah,
Ahmed and Brad Miller versus Tanaka.
yeah. I think this is another one of those times where I don't feel the true need to really punt. I think 3,500 is a decent range to kind of stick in between because you can get some big time bats
Yeah.
still in there.
Yeah, and my boy Aledemys Diaz going against Scherzer. So even at 2,500, can't do it.
Oh man, I know you love your Diaz.
Can't do it, man. So yeah, I think at short you kind of for once you kind of like pay up. You kind of just stay up there regardless, even in that 4K range. I think that's the safe move.
Yeah, there's no moderate 21 or anything like that to kind of put you into play there.
I wish there was because that would be throwing him in no matter what, even against Tanaka.
Yeah. Looking at outfield here, and Denard Span's your highest priced outfielder on tonight's slate. So I'm sorry, but that shows the Giants are completely overpriced. I know it's Tyler Chatwood, I know it's in cores, but sorry.
No way,
If this
man.
was like a 7 or 8 game slate, I'd be kind of forced into paying for cores. But
Yeah.
there are some other good options in this thing. So I'm not necessarily huge on paying up all the way there.
Like, does Coors make Denard Span versus Chatwood better than Trout versus Fires to me? Like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at if you want to pay up. I think Braun's in a good spot. Trout. I mean, Moogie Betts, Bryce Harper, not Denard Span.
Yeah, I love Ryan Braun tonight. I mean, great matchup in Milwaukee. I'm with you there. I mean, I would even roll Nelson Cruz at 4,800, getting the lefty there in
Mm-hmm.
Seattle. So I think there's guys who have just been more consistent. And that Coors outfielder that we both liked was Carlos Gonzalez at
Yes.
4,500, just because one, it's a reasonable price for a Coors outfielder, and he's facing Matt Cain. So coming off a homer, if you missed that homer, I mean, he pretty much took out his 7 iron and just golfed it out of Fenway against Buchholz last night.
Yeah.
But a nice matchup for him, and I'm kind of all over him in all formats.
And I mean, he started off slow last year too, and he's not up to his standard this year yet either. So I think he's going to start to turn it around here. Good matchup.
Yep.
Say that he's one for Denard Span.
Yeah.
That just makes me laugh. Again, Lorenzo Kane. I was looking at playing him quite a bit yesterday, and then I got rained out, so I'm in on that. At 4,400.
Yeah, I like Marcelo Ozuna as well going up against Perez. I mean, Ozuna's red hot, hitting over 400 in the last 10 days. So
Mm-hmm.
it gets another nice matchup against Perez. I think you can kind of eat that up. But no, I mean, you were talking about Bradley Jr. 4,300 coming off an 0 for 4 game. I mean, the guy
But
hit 2
with
balls to the track.
Yeah, like he was hitting the ball well. It wasn't like they were dribblers to second, they were a warning track almost out. Everyone gets excited and then it tracks down. So
Yeah.
I'm not worried about him or anything like that. So yeah, I'm going right back to that well. Michael Saunders 4K. I like that matchup for Toronto, but he's like a cheap piece that you don't necessarily have to invest significantly in to get a piece of. So I like that.
Yeah, I like him. I like Brandon Drury, 3,900. I like using him in the outfield. I like this Diamondbacks team a lot, and Drury's kind of a cheaper option from it. So I think this Diamondback stack is pretty intriguing, and
Mm-hmm.
Drury's kind of that value piece to it. So um, going up against a weak lefty there, I think he's kind of one of my top somewhat value-ish outfielders.
Definitely.
You were liking Cameron Maybin there at
Mm.
3,600, a guy who just continues to hit the ball well. I mean, two or three two-hit games in the last three, and I mean, what's stopping him at this point? He just continues to go out and produce, and this
You
Tiger team is in
you
a great
said
spot.
Maven, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, unreal. I think we just have to keep playing him until he gets to the 4K range. Then you really have to ask yourself if this is real or not, which it probably isn't. But if for 3,600, I think you just keep going at it, you know?
yeah, I think so too. And I mean, there's some guys down this cheaper. Right? I don't mind actually spinning down at outfield tonight. I think you can do that here. Guy I like is Ryan Rua against John Neese there. You look at Rua, I mean, his career numbers against lefties 369 Wobo, 191 ISO. He'll draw the start there. He's a cheap bat in a great ballpark against Neese. I mean, one of my favorite outfielders on the slate.
So, an interesting narrative slash storyline tonight is the Dodgers versus the Mets. It sounds like you're ignoring this entire game from a hitter perspective. Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Because Urias is a top prospect coming in for his first start. He's a little underpriced, but it seems like they've adjusted the Mets sort of pricing a little bit as well for him to potentially be good. So, are we avoiding the Mets tonight completely?
I mean, if you're rolling out a bunch of lineups and you wanted to roll one against him, because I mean, it's always tough to know what you're going to get from a guy making his debut.
Uh
I
huh.
mean, could be completely wild. He could be completely off his game. Um, but I mean, the way this guy's pitched, I mean, he's been super efficient in the minors. I mean,
Hmm.
it seems like this guy's unreal stuff. And I just think this is a situation where 14 games, I'm not going to really take many chances on this game.
Right, and then you're not going at DeGrom.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's been pretty average this season, but I mean, I
It's
was joking
DeGrom.
around before. I was like, he hasn't been Sonny Gray bad. So, uh,
Right.
it's kind of a situation. And this Dodgers team, it's not like they've been lights out as well. I mean, that's a different story too, because
Hmm.
they've performed pretty underwhelming for most of the season.
Right. No doubt. No doubt.
So, I mean, over under a 7, I'm not expecting a lot there.
One last guy in that White Sox Royals game is Melky Cabrera, 3,200. I think that's a pretty solid price. So, I mean, if that game plays, I probably will use quite a few players in lineups as value guys, sort of one offs in that game.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And 2,800 Austin Jackson. I mean, he'd be another one cheap outfielder going up against Duffy.
Hmm.
So definitely some value outfielders to kind of work in your lineups tonight.
Definitely.
That's going to wrap things up here with the DK Daily Trot. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.